because that should not be the case. And I will say that we have changed the process so that students don't have to share their stories so many times. We want you to just have to share it one time and then be able to investigate from there. So that is a change that has come, and that's one of the reasons why the Dean of Students office works with the EO office, so that you can get the support that you need from us and then tell the story that you need to share to the EO office so that the investigation can take place there. It is important for us to be survivor centered, and I am sorry that you had to go through an experience that you weren't ready for at all. That's not what this is supposed to be about. And so I apologize that that was your experience.
Thank you.
In terms of how many people have gone through the process, that's not a number that I have. So I oversee the Office of Student Conduct and Community Standards. I don't have that number, but that is something that we will look at as we review all of the cases that have come through to see what outcomes what have the outcomes been. One of the things I do think that is important to share is there are times when someone may not go through the adjudication process because that is not what the survivor wants to have happen. And so in being survivor-centered, we have to take that into consideration. So there are times when people are going to look at the disposition of a case and say that nothing happened because the survivor didn't want adjudication to happen.
I'm happy to explain a little bit more about the Cleary report and the numbers there, if that's helpful. So, because it is complex. So, to begin with, the police department is responsible for compiling the Cleary report, the campus safety report. But the information there is reflective of all reports that come into the university. And so, the numbers often reflect confidential reports as well. And so, to Dean Ashley's point, there aren't necessarily outcomes for those things, or there may not be outcomes for that following year, depending on, again, how the survivor feels and whether or not they want to move forward. So, as UPD compiles that report, they get, I wanted to just kind of be clear about this, they get the information from the following sources: reports that are made to UMPD directly, so those things that occur on campus. Those things are done in collaboration with the district attorney's office as well. There are reports made from outside jurisdictions, so we have a responsibility to collect reports for an area right around campus, so that would include some of the residential areas around campus, as well as other properties that we own, such as in Springfield or otherwise. Our campus security authorities, like folks that are mandated reporters, so if someone would come into my office and begin to talk to me about a traumatic experience, I would actually have them, I would pause and say, I want you to stop and understand, if you go further, I will need to report this. So I don't want you to have to retell this. So that's, again, the proper way that it should be handled. And to say, instead, I'd rather you know this and allow me to take you to a confidential place, or to the Title IX office. So as Carrie indicated earlier, they can then do that facilitation for them. So it's just important to know that, of course, the fourth area would be the confidential areas. Our CWC, our counseling center, CCPH, thank you. Those are areas as well. They don't report names, they don't report locations, they simply give numbers to include in the Cleary. So that's the roll-up of those numbers. And again, I know that's a little bit in the weeds, but it's important for folks to understand that those numbers, that doesn't mean we have that many outcomes, because all of those cases come from different places, and all of those survivors are in very different places in their recovery and journey.
Hello, I just want to make sure people can hear me. I have two main things that I want to raise. There are a lot more, but I want to give other people a chance to speak. So first off, I want to acknowledge how this event was sent to like a couple club heads less than 48 hours before, and there was no chance for the greater UMass community to even know about this. The only reason I know about this is someone told me in class today. like warning that this was going to happen, we would have a lot more people in this room right now. And this should have been a campus-wide email, just like all of the pre-formulated apologies have been. Because pre-formulated because a lot of them have the same exact sentences and paragraphs. The only thing that changes is the incident that I mentioned. And it's sort of like, oh, that sucks. We have a couple campus centers, hope that gets better. So that was just my main point. I did feel that was kind of sneaky to try and intentionally have less people here, so I don't know whether that was your intention, but that is the very strong message you sent. That you wanted this small, and you didn't want a lot of people coming, so you didn't want a lot of people raising their issues. Second,
would you like to respond to that, this first one?
Honestly, not really.
Oh! Gotta love body cams.
At this point, I do think it would be excuses, and I don't think that's going to help us moving forward. The other thing I wanted to share is I wanted to share about my friend Caitlin Baker, and she cannot share that story because she's no longer a part of the UMass community. She experienced an abusive relationship that turned into stalking. She went to all the appropriate centers. She talked to a bunch of people. She told her story over and over again, which you say you change the system so they don't tell their stories again, which is good, but that was still her experience and that still happened. And the option she was presented with was like, cope or go to the police. And if I don't even need to explain why the police is not, especially UMass PD, is not a safe place. I don't know a single student on this campus who trusts or believes that the UMPD has their best interests in mind, but everyone. Racist, that there are like people who perpetrate like sexual harassment, sexual assault as a part of the UMPD, and I don't know a single person who hasn't heard of something bad or experienced something bad with them. So these are her two options, the police or nothing. So she ended up getting a restraining order, and which he violated twice in the first week. And there were, mind you, no repercussions for him, nothing for him. And so he was in one of her classes, and she's a theater major, and he was in the main stage show that she was also working on. She was told, you can get the credits for working on the show, but I think it's maybe best if you don't work on it anymore. And she did the rest of her classwork in her bedroom for the rest of the semester. I do not see that as a solution. I think he should have been kicked the fuck out. I don't care if he was a senior. I don't care. And something I don't understand is that he was brought before a court and the judge was like, yeah, she needs a restraining order from him. This is not safe. I don't know why he was allowed to even continue to be on the campus when he has a restraining order against him. This, again, like, as many people have been iterating, like, protecting these people. He was allowed to, he didn't change a single thing about his schedule. He went to class, he stayed in the show. As one of the star roles, he went to Texas to represent the University of Massachusetts Amherst Theater Department in one of the star roles. And he graduated, and nothing happened to him. He got a restraining order against him, but since they basically secluded Caitlin to her room, it became a non-issue, sexually assaulted, and not much else. Like, I wasn't given support. My abuser was held up as like a pinnacle of UMass culture, and
based on this experience, what question do you have for the university?
and so why was he still here if we had a restraining order against him? And what are you doing? I haven't heard a single case where the rapist or the assaulter or like the abuser has faced any repercussions of all the victim being hidden away. What about the abuser who is still being kept on this campus? What are you doing about the abusers?
So, I am sorry that your friend had the experience that she had. And I understand that my apology does not change her experience. But I offer it anyway because I'm sorry that any student has to go through that, because that's not what we come to college for. In terms of addressing the restraining order, the Dean of Students Court, the Office of Student Conduct and Community Standards will work with the University Police Department to make sure that we can implement restraining orders. There are some things that we have to take into consideration, and I'm going to tell you that you're not going to like part of my answer, because when we are looking at it, if someone has not been found responsible for violating a policy, there are limits to the actions that we can take prior to them being found responsible. So we do work with the University Police Department to make sure that if we need to make adjustments, if it gets reported to Carrie's office, if there are adjustments that we need to make, we can make those while an investigation is going on. But until someone is found responsible for something, it's very hard for us to implement just kicking someone off campus.
I don't understand why the judge, like a U.S. court system judge found that restraining order was necessary because of the actions of this individual, and having a restraining order against you for harassing someone, it does not violate the code of conduct.
So there are two processes. So there is the legal system, and then there is the processes that we have as a campus community. And so as a campus community, the process that we have to work through in order to make sure that we are implementing things in the right way. And so we cannot just simply kick someone off campus until that process has played out. And so, like I shared with you, I know that you're not gonna like my answer, but that is part of the process that we have to go through in order to ensure that we provide due process.
I just want to give a time check and mention that you're over halfway through. So if you could keep your questions to like 2 minutes, just so we can get through all of them, that would be so appreciated.
I'd just like to start off with saying that I've been promptly threatened with sanctions for protesting for things like a debt-free future, and it seems like that kind of threat is not present for people's behavior when it impacts women and trans people.